And that new normal is something we're going to be talking about. Now, we're lucky to do that with Michael Schneider, Variety's TV editor. Michael, thanks so much for being with us tonight. Really appreciate your expertise on the show.
Absolutely.
Before we came to air, you and I were just talking about what's going on in Hollywood, and I want to get your sense of what you see of happening in production in Southern California. Of course, against the backdrop, as you and I were just talking about, that business, it's tough across the board in this economy, but then what makes it particularly difficult here for production?
Yeah, and already these companies prior to the strikes, I mean, we could talk about the strikes, but even before that, we were seeing a softening in the boom that we saw over the last couple of years with the rise of the streaming services and the amount of money that these companies poured into production, the volume, which brought a lot more people to town and a lot more people working in this business. But as that bubble has burst and as peak TV, as they call it, has started to decline, probably not seeing it returning anytime soon, if ever. That business model just didn't really work out for the streamers. They've moved on to other business models. They're not investing in content the way they once did. Still a lot of content being produced, but just not like it once was.
And you heard in that reporter piece, the mantra that they're using is survive till 25. That's pretty bleak. I mean, people are just trying to get through to the next year. There's been reporting on these sorts of Facebook groups, one called Cruise Stories, where the person who's a moderator of that forum of people who are on Hollywood Cruise who are out of work, there's suicidal ideation. I mean, what are you hearing about the state of mental health for these workers, but also their prospects as they try to figure out what you say is a new normal on the horizon?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I hear that a lot too, that survive till 25 has become a big mantra. The thing is, I almost worry that that's too optimistic, that this business is not going to resolve itself, figure out its future in just 6 months, honestly. We still don't know what's going to happen with Paramount, for example. A lot of mystery about, potential other mergers and acquisitions at these companies as everyone figures out what the new normal is. And I don't know that we're going to know what the new normal is by 2025. And that's the ongoing concern, is as production moves away, not just to other states, but also overseas. Those are jobs that, it's a big question of whether or not they'll come back. And it's a lot harder for people who work in the industry here in LA to pull up stakes and move to, say, Australia or Bulgaria. It was a lot easier to move to, say, Atlanta when that became a booming production hub.
Right, and as you talk about some of this production migrating or emigrating, as the case may be, to other jurisdictions nationally or internationally, there is this ongoing conversation in California about this extended tax credit. Qualifying productions could take a tax credit against their liabilities, but they say, and the people in the industry say, it's just not big enough to be competitive with jurisdictions like New York and Georgia. What's your sense of that tax credit and the lobbying effort around it? How likely is it to get bigger? Will it being bigger actually help?
Potentially, we do see that with this tax credit now, some productions that are, hugely popular, say Fallout, the new Amazon Prime Video show, are managing to come back to California. We've seen other shows do that as well. It's obviously not enough, and there are other economic concerns in California that clearly are preventing it from being a much larger tax credit. But the concern is always going to be there about runaway production and how we have seen so many productions go, of course, to Canada. That's been going on for a long time, but even to other states like Georgia and New York. But as you see, there's a lot of debate in those states as well, and there's no guarantee that those tax credits will even continue in some of those states. Sometimes they're not as popular as they once were. So it's a real question mark all over.
Yeah, and we hear this reporting too from talent agencies, people who run these agencies as well. And this gets into this idea of it's not just the crew members and the actors and the writers and the people both above and below the line on these productions. It's not just the restaurateurs that happen to cater for the lots. It's so many other businesses in this ecosystem, talent agency just being one of them. And they're saying they're having a tough time keeping the lights on too because they work on commissions and there's less work to go around. You're the kind of guy who talks to talent agents, I know, and people in Hollywood left and right. What are you hearing from them? And as they're calibrating for their expectations about what's to come, how are they thinking about what this new normal might be?
Well, obviously, the smaller talent agencies are hit the hardest, like a lot of productions, et cetera. It's a real question mark of how they will be able to survive moving forward, especially now that in a lot of cases they can no longer get packaging fees like they once did, that covered a lot of costs for these agencies. The larger agencies, they've definitely moved into other businesses. They've gone far beyond just representing talent, and so I think they're seeing more and more that that's what their future is. But yeah, across the board, like you said, this ecosystem is impacted when production is down and people are hurting, they're not spending money, or they're having to leave the state. That impacts everyone.
Yeah, I mean, as you say, agencies are subsidizing in a lot of different ways, but also those agents are often the ones responsible for helping really foster and make careers for a lot of folks. And so it's just, we talk about specific jobs, but also the ripple effect of them. And as we think again about the impact of the dual strikes from last year, there's a possibility of another one looming. I mean, people in the know say that the IATSE, the theatrical folks and Teamsters who help with the production aren't likely to go to a strike, but they're talking about it. They're working out this negotiation with the AMPTP. And last time with the dual writer strikes too, a lot of production wasn't starting in part because there was uncertainty around what was happening with those contracts. So when you look at what's happening with IATSE and Teamsters, what's the impact on it now, the likelihood of a strike moving forward, and can the industry keep on dealing with these labor disputes?
Yeah, I mean, the feeling right now is there's a cautious optimism. Of course, last year there was as well, but it's a year later and things are a lot different in this industry now. And it does seem like they are talking and going back to the table with IATSE and also starting conversations with the Teamsters as well. We still have some time before the deadline, the July 31st deadline. So I think the feeling is across the board that we just cannot survive another strike or strikes, and there's real momentum on all sides to get a fair deal done. So fingers crossed.
Yeah, absolutely, fingers crossed. So you said it may be optimistic to say that we're going to get this all figured out within the next 6 months, but optimism is what we got. Here in Hollywood, we're dreaming, right? So we'll take what we can get, and that includes your expertise. So thank you so much for bringing it tonight, Michael Schneider from Variety. Appreciate you as always.
Thanks so much.